Hello. Style, shush. Okay. Just trying to go live on TikTok. I'm just trying to see if there's a way to put my background in. I want AI wallpaper. I want regular wallpaper. Hey, hey, hey. Shush style. Shush style. We are here recording today. Hey. 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 Shush, friends. Shush. Today we are read a few things. I'm going to read some books by queer people because it is Pride Month after all. And we are going to record more chapters of Uncultured and The Secret Practice if things work out because children are home today. And I also have this book, Beyond Belief, The Secret Lives of Women in Extreme Religions. And I think we're going to start reading out some chapters. This is probably a really good book for people that are like, where do I start? And I'm always like, read 5 cult books in a row. Well, maybe start with a anthology of cult books. That could be cool. So we're going to start checking that one out. Yeah, I need my camera. If we have cult questions, feel free to ask because I also have to make some cult videos, but I'm not necessarily thinking of all the things I want to say yet. I feel feel like I've taught people everything about cults. I get less questions now. I don't know what's happening with my hair today. I'm just going to let it do what it wants to do. Apparently I can't watch the closed music with the AirPods. Hey, Facts Don't Matter. Nice to see you. And we're just here to knit and read stuff to people. This is overflowing with scarfigans. There are my glasses. Somebody's making all kinds of noise. I have 2 podcasts that are being released next month. In fact, one podcast about cults. It's called Cults and the Culting of America. And one podcast about deconstructing white supremacy. And it's called Hey White Women. I think I have to read the preface of this book. I think that's what we're going to record today. That was just a photo of myself. This here is a lovely book by my friend Dr. Reverend Angela Yarber. It's called Queering the American Dream. I just went to her book event yesterday here in DC. It was so fantastic. She's also the author, or the founder of Tehom Center Publishing, which is a press publishing feminist and queer authors with a commitment to elevating BIPOC writers. This is A Word from the Author 2024 edition. Many of us will relate to this. Dear reader, just by picking up this book, I'm asking you to be vulnerable. And since I'm asking that of you, I'll begin with some vulnerability of my own. Like most authors, I had grand plans for queering the American dream, heeding the wisdom of venerable Black queer writer Polly Murray. One person. I have to start again because my stitches aren't on my needle. This is not recoverable. Now we're just going to sit around with me knitting. All right, so this thing happens when I'm out in public. Oh, why is my husband calling me? Hello? Hello? Okay. Love you. Bye. I have to go bring the man of the room. I realized you went here after I put it down the stairs. I just realized that shit dropped in there. I have the needle I lost on the floor. Can't complain too much because he's out recovering all of our tents from camping. I found the needle that was on my floor. I know. Why would you go camping when you don't have to do it for work? I feel the same way. Damn it. Problem with metal needles, other than the noise they make, is that they are very slippery. The reason we use them is because we can go very, very fast. But overall, I'm mostly switching to wooden needles for all the people on the socials. Okay. Okay, this book is called Queering the American Dream. It involves a camper named Freda. A word from the author, 2024 edition. Dear reader, just by picking up this book, I'm asking you to be vulnerable. And since I'm asking that of you, I'll begin with some vulnerability of my own. Like most authors, I had grand plans for queering the American dream. Heeding the wisdom of the venerable Black queer writer Pauli Murray, one person plus one typewriter constitutes a movement, I committed not simply to writing and publishing a book, but creating a movement. With my modern day typewriter, laptop, in hand, I dreamed of readers throwing off the shackles of an ill-suited dream, galvanizing retreats, coaching to help other marginalized creatives queer their own iterations of the so-called American dream. I tried learning about book marketing and pitching companion essays and creating a launch team and all those things small-time authors do without expensive publicists on retainer. I tried so hard. But when this book was first published in hardback in 2022, I was still reeling, floundering, struggling with bipolar 2, chronic fatigue, parenting 2 children with disabilities, and having just been released from a residential eating disorder recovery facility that prompted a 6,000-mile move across an ocean and a continent. I launched this book into the world hoping for the best. Mental health, grief, disability, and nearly 5 years living below the poverty line had other plans. They sucker punched me back into bed for 9 months. Launch team untapped. Book marketing plans out the window. The queer movement I dreamed of, little more than the space between my bed and the couch. It sucked. And when my doctors finally took me off the medication that was keeping me down, I came back to myself. I had energy, renewed hope, and the capacity to be a productive person I'd been for over 40 years. I started a publishing company, Tay Home Center Publishing, an imprint publishing feminist and queer authors with a commitment to elevate BIPOC writers. And I found myself living into the movement I'd originally dreamed of with the initial publication of this book. I wasn't just awake and productive, I was flourishing, and I was helping other marginalized authors flourish in the process. It was nothing short of a revelation. Yet, the hardback of Queering the American Dream sat dusty in boxes, unopened for all those events I'd planned only 2 years prior, when my life and health took a dramatic nosedive. And I had to ask myself, do I let this book and this dream and this movement go, or do I breathe new life into them? Girded by the wisdom of the women you'll soon read about, I chose the latter. No longer on government assistance or medication that causes tardive dyskinesia, requiring 14 hours of daily sleep, I grabbed those old books with their unsuccessful covers and lack of aligned marketing plans, and I began to dream new dreams. This time, though, I didn't limit my consultations to revolutionary women from the past, the bold ones who inspired our travel and filled the pages of this book, but I gathered the wisdom of the revolutionary women who fill my life today. I talked with dear author friends, did trainings with renowned writers, studied feminist marketing, meditated with my queer clergy women coven, and listened to the inner wisdom that had been silenced by faulty medications. And together we decided to try again. Queering anything takes creative work after all. So I released this book into the wild once again, this time with a new cover, creative edits, new epilogue, and a movement that has already begun with Tay Home Center Publishing. Whenever I coach the authors at Tay Home Center Publishing, I always begin with the why behind their book. I believe every author has two whys. The first is practical, and the second is prophetic. The practical includes those things we activists don't really like to talk about, such as wanting to write a book to become famous, or get rich, or build a business, or prove expertise, or check an item off a bucket list, or raise a middle finger to that 8th grade English teacher who told us our writing would never amount to anything. Because it's important to know why you want to publish a book in the first place. The prophetic why behind writing, though, is always what gets the juices flowing, because it's the mission or heart of why you write, to make a difference in the world. Recently, an author in one of my writing cohorts turned this question back on me, asking why is it that I want to publish? The reason is simple yet profound. I'm publishing this book, sharing my queer family's story with the world, because I'm sick of seeing so many marginalized people bound to the so-called dreams that have been systematically designed to disenfranchise us. Heteronormativity, white supremacy, the 9-to-5 rat race, broken education, medical and criminal justice systems. We've been told to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps by a country that has stolen our boots, and that's not okay. Or to quote my clear clergy women coven, honey, it's not you, it's the system. It's rigged. I wrote and published this book so that you can see examples of what it means to live and dream differently. Because in the words of Toni Morrison, the only life you can have is the one you can imagine. My why is an exercise in radical imagination of dreaming what life and work and vocation and family could look like if we heed the wisdom of queer women of color who've been dreaming alternative, dismantling dreams from the jump. It wasn't easy, but my wife and I tried to follow this queer intersectional wisdom. And it didn't end when this book ends either. Rather, it is a day after day joy and struggle to truly be comrades en la lucha, co-mothers in the struggle for justice and beauty. Comadres en la lucha. I deserve to live such a dream, and so do you. That's my why. As you read these pages, I invite you to consider your why as well. Why do you do what you do? What systems and structures make it more difficult for you to attain your dreams? And whose wisdom are you heeding along the way? Queering Dreams and Queering Movements, Dr. Angela Yarber. So she goes and travels the country in an RV with her wife and their child. And this book is all about that. It's a pretty good book. I believe that I blurbed it. Let's see if my blurb showed up. It's not on the back cover. Oh, no, it is on the back cover. A deep look at how powerful the tools of myth, legend, and belief are in crafting our cultural dreams, and how those have historically been co-opted by the patriarchy. Daniella Young, author of Uncultured, a memoir of cults, war, and belonging. That was originally going to be the subtitle of Uncultured, but then they couldn't fit it on the book cover. Anyways, check out Queering the American Dream by Dr. Angela Yarber. Great book for this month. I think I have comments. Not that many comments. Just a lot of people showing up. Hi, people. Oh, there's a comment. Crocheting, reading, and interacting. It's knitting, but yes, I do also crochet. Good morning, Berry Berry. Good morning, Hassan. Okay. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do the preface. The preface is also lovely. I have maybe 10 pairs of glasses. 2 of them are just blue blockers that I use when I'm on the computer. The rest of none of these are prescription glasses, by the way. They're all just magnifying glasses. I have had LASIK surgery in 2013. This was before I went to Afghanistan the second time. Fun story, because the US military will give you one elective surgery. And they do this so that they can have good plastic surgeons, so that they can rebuild people in war. And so most people will use it for their eyes if they need that. And so I tried that, and I got denied for all 4 reasons. The Army denies people LASIK surgery. So I had to go into Nashville and pay somebody really, really a lot of money because they had a picture of like Reba and Kenny Chesney on their walls. But he did my surgery with no problem. And it was so nice to go to war without having to worry about glasses. But these days, I feel like my eyesight's getting bad again, and doctors keep being like, nope, you're fine. So I just make up my own glasses. And also they look cool, especially now that I wear less makeup. Basically no makeup. Okay, so preface of Queering the American Dream. This is Queering the American Dream by Dr. Angela Yarber. Preface. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The chalky remains of a life cut short filled my hands as I watched my faith slip through the cracks between my fingers. As ordained clergy, I've officiated a lot of funerals. For 14 years, I shaped burnt ash across congregants' foreheads each year before Lent and reminded them that we all come from dust. To dust we shall return. This day, as I officiated my little brother's funeral, I held the ashes of his body in my bare hands. I'd never done this with anyone else's remains, but I wanted to somehow touch him one last time, to feel his pain and let his torment fall through my fingers as fragments of his bone clung to my palms. Duster to dust, computer duster killed my brother. The winds of early March whipped through my grandfather's muscadine vineyard, the place where my brother and I played hide and seek throughout our childhood. The sugary scent of late Georgia summer tickling our noses as we ran and swatted mosquitoes. The farm had been a place of solace for both of us and remained so into adulthood, as a tattered family riddled with divorce, addiction, and abuse cobbled together picnic tables long enough to fit all the extended relatives at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now we memorialized my 33-year-old brother as my 90-year-old grandfather sat small in a folding chair with the scarves, blankets, and coats of all 5 of his children heaped upon his tiny frame. If it weren't for the death and sadness, the sight of our frail patriarch peeking out from under mounds of outerwear would have been quite comical. I stood before the folding chairs of family with swipes of my brother's remains smudged across my black dress, as though I'd been teaching a thorough lesson at the blackboard of my university classroom and mistakenly leaned against the chalk. A colander was perched atop my head. This was, indeed, comical and intentional. You see, my little brother, Carl, was not religious. In fact, he was anti-religious. He embodied his disdain for organized religion with a profound love for the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. As I am a professor of religion, Carl could hold his own with me when discussing world religions, and I would dare say he knew more about Christian history, scripture, and theology than most people who profess the faith. This was in large part because my brother was an intelligent, critical thinker, and in small part because he deplored the way most churches treated his queer big sister. But organized religions were not for Carl, so he opted to study and parody them with the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Started as a protest against right-wing discrimination, the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster holds a lighthearted view of religion and jokingly calls its adherents Pastafarians. And yes, you can put it on your dog tags in the military. Ask me how I know. So the colander is a highly esteemed satirical symbol, because it drains pasta. In addition to omitting any references to God throughout his funeral, I also opted to wear the colander on my head, passing it around whenever anyone wanted to share a memory or a word of comfort. This probably seems blasphemous to many. As an ordained clergywoman, I think it's pretty damn funny. I needed the levity. Other clergy colleagues offered to officiate, knowing how emotional I would be and seeking to provide me with the care I was extending to many others. But I couldn't trust anyone with the words and gestures, rituals, and lamentations for honoring my little brother. Trembling under March clouds, the vineyard behind me, farmhouse beside me, family before me, and shiny metal colander rattling above me, I couldn't help but wonder, how in the hell did we get here? And how can we survive this? How'd we get here? In many ways, that's what this book is about. How in the hell did we get here? It should just be a travel memoir, not a eulogy. For 18 months, my wife, toddler, and I roamed the country as my brother's addiction morphed into a bigger and bigger beast. In this meandering travelation turned funeral narrative, the lives, legends, and legacies of the revolutionary holy women I paint and write about were and continue to be my guides. They are how I survived this, and I believe they can help you survive and thrive too, no matter your grief or loss. I just lost a brother in December. It was the myth of Lilith leaving the Garden of Eden that gave me the courage to leave a job that was assaulting my soul. It was the passionate nomad Freya Stark's sentiment that it's the beckoning that counts, not the clicking latch behind you, that called me out of ordinary life to wonder and wander as a form of vocational discernment. It was Polly Murray's intrepid resilience as she faced overt discrimination because of her race, gender, sexuality, and gender identity that buoys my work as an artist, author, and publisher that is trying to make substantive changes for marginalized women and our access to empowerment, inspiration, and beauty. More than quotable phrases or cliches, however, is the way these revolutionary women form a subversive sisterhood of saints that surrounds and upholds all queer women seeking to live and work outside the box of white supremacist cis heteropatriarchy, outside the bonds of the American dream. Because of them, not only can we work outside this dream, but we can begin to dismantle it. How in the hell did we get here? With a lot of dismantling. And that's a hefty weight to haul through the world with a colander on your head. Leaving, roaming, dismantling, grieving, creating, with a toddler in tow. Throughout this wandering, I share with you not only the stories of my traveling family in all our queer, broken, addicted, faithless glory. I also share with you the guides, the revolutionary women whose footsteps paved the way, offering inspiration and empowerment to anyone bold enough to follow. 16 women to be exact, one historical woman and one mythological for each phase of the journey. Leaving Vermont, the southeast, crossing the country east to west along the southern border. Hawaii, crossing the country west to east along the northern border. The North Carolina mountains, and back to Hawaii again. Lilith and Joanna Lee, Sophia and Freya Stark, Mary and Polly Murray, Our Lady of Guadalupe and Gloria Anzaldúa, Pele and Dorothy Day, Guanyin and Audre Lorde, Sarasvati and Sojourner Truth, Frida Kahlo and the Goddess of Grief, offered lessons in courage, integrity, hope, creativity, rage, care, interconnectedness, and resilience along the way. In fact, they paved the way. Because of them, I could, and do, and am, in the most beautiful or gut-wrenching places, They emboldened my queer little family. I painted them and wrote about them. And now I share some of their stories and mine with you. Each of these revolutionary women embodied a particular virtue that emboldened my travels, giving me strength and comfort in the wake of my brother's death. I believe they can do the same for you. If the American dream isn't working for you, if you've been excluded, ignored, or erased from the dream touted by so many, these are the stories you need to hear. If you want to invoke the radical imagination necessary to create a better world, I encourage you to keep reading. Courage, integrity, hope, creativity, rage, care, interconnectedness, and resilience are waiting for you. These revolutionary women and my queer family's wanderings taught me how to embody these virtues in order to have the radical imagination to queer the American dream. Now, I share these lessons with you so that together we can create a better world. And the book is Queering the American Dream by Dr. Reverend Angela Yarber. She gave such a great speech yesterday. Also, yesterday, I sat through a sermon into church. It's not exactly warned about. Mostly I had noise canceling on and Taylor Swift playing, and I was crocheting my crochet things and trying not to feel extremely weird in a church. This book is called Worthy. The back, like we do. Today, for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading Worthy, the memoir of an ex-Mormon lesbian by Chris Davis, who is a creator on TikTok. At age 32, Chris Davis had everything she was told that she wanted: a husband, 2 children, and a townhouse in the suburbs. The plan had been laid out for her, and compliance was expected. A devout Mormon with a stellar reputation in her community, Davis spent a lifetime listening to rhetoric from church leaders that queer people were sinners and needed to repent of their wickedness. She had sworn faithfulness and obedience to God and the church, but was faced with an impossible equation. How could she earn blessings from God and an eternal life in heaven when she knew she was gay? She decided the only way out was a 17-year plan to raise her children and then take her own life. In Worthy, the memoir of an ex-Mormon lesbian, Davis tells her story of growing up in a Mormon household in Maine. Her nostalgic and sometimes humorous childhood memories of family and friends provide life lessons that influence her during the traumatic experiences she has as a woman and as a closeted queer person in the church. It wasn't until one of her children comes out that Davis is forced to choose between religion and family. She chooses love. Davis shares her brave journey from the depths of despair to hope and possibility. She shines a light on the tragedy of exclusion in our churches, in families, and in society, which takes such a toll on youth who struggle with their identities. Her inspiring account shows that it takes courage and fortitude to change one's beliefs and live an authentic life, but the rewards are immense. I was going to read her bio, but then I didn't know if that goes, but I think it goes. Chris Davis was a lifelong devout Mormon who checked all of the expected boxes of wife, mother, teacher, leader, follower, and believer until 2020, when she left her family and her church to fulfill her own personal destiny as a gay woman and independent thinker. She remains close with her 2 adult children, one of whom is a believing member of the church, and the other who is a transgender man that has also left the church. Chris's other works include contributing an essay about her experience of being queer in the LDS church in an anthology called I Spoke to You with Silence, published in 2022 by the University of Utah Press. She lives quite happily in her home state of Maine. And you can connect with Chris and explore other podcasts and public appearances on her website, chrisdavidcrowd.com. And she has a beautiful sticker that says, "You are worthy." And I put it on my fridge or something, so I can't shut it off. And it's signed for Daniella. From one tough broad to another, escaping cults and fighting the good fight. Love your content. Keep it up. We are worthy. All the love, Chris Davis. Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading from Worthy, the memoir of an ex-Mormon lesbian by Chris Davis. Introduction. From the time I was 12, my church teachers and leaders described my perfect future to me. They told me that being a wife and mother was the solemn fulfillment of my eternal destiny, and that I would find my greatest joy and happiness in those roles. Style. Shh. Come here. Style. Come here. Come be grumpy over here. Come on. Sit. Good boy. Start that again. Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading from Worthy, the memoir of an ex-Mormon lesbian by Chris Davis. Introduction. From the time I was 12, my church teachers and leaders described my perfect future life to me. They told me that being a wife and mother was the solemn fulfillment of my eternal destiny, and that I would find my greatest joy and happiness in those roles. I had a townhouse in the suburbs of Connecticut, and I was a stay-at-home mother. At age 32, I had everything I was told I wanted. Yet here I was in the psych ward, medicated and stripped of my shoelaces, with a husband and 2 small children at home waiting for my return. The sadness and depression overpowered me when a catastrophic event happened in my family. From that day forward, everything changed. My life's purpose became clouded. I awoke from my sleepy trance of obedience and didn't recognize myself. This was a good life, but it wasn't my life. I revealed my most burdensome secret to a doctor in the hospital. I was gay. I had suspected it since age 7, but I never let myself admit it. There was a puzzle there that I couldn't figure out yet because I didn't have the language to express it or the capability to understand it. There were many close calls over the years when I thought my secret was revealing itself to others, but I kept a tight leash on my feelings and expressions of affection. It wasn't safe to be a lesbian at that time. When I was 13, a man in my town was beaten to unalived and thrown in the river for being gay. Many of my friends and family members made jokes about the Chakahomo Bridge. It was horrifying for a baby gay like me to see how acceptable this violence was in my community. In addition to societal pressure, the church preached that same-sex attraction was an abomination and that it should be resisted like any other temptation, such as gambling, alcoholism, drug addiction, and pedophilia. Now in the hospital, with my perfect life awaiting me, I made a plan. After admitting to myself that I was attracted to women, I knew that my heteronormative life was not right for me. However, I had made a commitment to my young family, and I wanted to honor that. When I was young, my mother used to threaten my brother Stephen and I that if we didn't behave better, she would leave us. Then she started saying all her bags were packed. That turned into her saying that all she had to do was walk out the door, and we would never see her again. I felt that fear of abandonment from an early age and didn't want that for my own young children. Better to raise them to adulthood before leaving their lives forever. So my plan was to raise our children the best I possibly could for the coming 17 years. And then, after the youngest graduated from high school, I would be free to unalive myself and finally find peace. Divorce wasn't an option. I was married for an eternity and took that vow seriously. Living as an out lesbian wasn't an option. It was a sin, a violation of God's laws. The only choice was to die and hope that in the next life I would be free from this affliction. A fitting plan that would, once and for all, overcome my spiritual weakness and restore my original spiritual nature of heteronormative behavior and feelings to be lived out through eternity. Dying would cure me. I was betting my life on it. The purpose of writing this memoir is to share my experience with losing my faith and finding my hope. Losing my faith in a God who was patriarchal and vindictive, who rewarded sacrifice and punished disobedience, who favored the righteous and withheld blessings from the wicked. And now that I was being honest with myself about being gay, who was I, if not wicked? How would I earn blessings and favor with God with this albatross around my neck? This was an impossible equation to solve. First, I was a Mormon with a stellar reputation for being righteous and a good example for others to follow. I held positions of leadership in the congregation, in the women's organization, and in the youth group. I received regular compliments on the lessons I taught about gospel topics because of the way I interpreted scripture stories and weaved them into the narrative. Second, I was a lesbian. After decades of denial, it was finally time to deal with this issue. But just what did deal mean? Like a porcupine, my quills had sprung out, and no amount of armor would put them back in again. I could only bide my time until the occasion was right to fulfill my plan. Third, I had a family, a loving husband, and 2 young, highly dependent children. I had made an eternal commitment to them in the temple of God. How could I fulfill this sacred familial obligation and still be true to myself? The answer was timing. I could be true to my future self by making plans while my current self lived the traditional family life. So I lay in my hospital bed, planning and calculating the next 17 years of selfless service to my family. I would be a stay-at-home mother. I would be the one to raise my own children. I had kids on purpose and took that duty seriously. Join me as I reminisce about the nostalgic years of my childhood and some quirky accounts of my family members and dear friends, all of whom I love without measure or judgment. These stories are contrasted with the trauma I experienced at the hands of the church and its leadership. Spoiler alert, I got out. My sincere hope is that my story will ring true with others who've lost their faith, and in doing so, will help them find their hope and a life worth living. Check out Worthy by Chris Davis. I'm so excited about this book. Chapter 1 is called Cold Baths All My Life. Before tomorrow. I have a kid at home, so I have to end earlier today. Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading from Daniella's book, Uncultured. Chapter 8, The End of the World as We Know It. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 1995. It was February 18th, time for the fast. Again. Grandpa's birthday, the official birthday of the family. Over 3 long days, we would pray for the old man's health, rededicate ourselves to God, and read new Mo letters to discover the updated revelations he had sent to his prophet. While the grown-ups were fasting and talking to God, the kids had lots of free time to color and play, and we got to eat special occasion food like soups and sandwiches made from donated bread, homemade mayo, and some cheese and tomatoes. And if we were lucky, even lunch meat. It was safest if we were quiet and stayed away from the adults during the fast. Sometimes their hunger led to crankiness, which could mean extra discipline. The day started differently than in previous years. At our dawn wake up, we were instructed to put on our best street dresses, the single nice outfit every kid had for accompanying adults outside the commune to raise money or beg for food from shops and grocery stores. But the fast wasn't usually a dress-up event. We were to head to the schoolroom on the third floor of the main house, a large multi-purpose space where Auntie Patty also lived. As I climbed the stairs to wait in the line of younger kids, I couldn't figure out the vibe. It almost felt like a party with adults milling outside the room, but many of them were crying. Something was very different. Auntie Dora opened the door. Behind her, I saw more important adults already inside. There was Mom sitting with the secretary pool, all the women who would take notes today. I didn't even have to turn my head to know that Dad would be over in the musician's corner, tuning his guitar and getting warmed up for inspiration time before the praying began. It was nice that I didn't have to look, since I knew Uncle Jerry would be right next to him. "Welcome to Grandpa's graduation party," Auntie Dora said, her slight German accent coming through, a big smile plastered on her tear-stained face. She welcomed all of us inside, and as I entered, I saw streamers hanging from the ceiling and balloons bouncing around the floor. In the center of the room was a big easel, upon which sat a full-color, glossy, absolutely giant picture of an old man with a creepy smile. I'll show you this picture. Is it that one? No, he's not wearing a gold chain. Oh, it's this one. I just lost it. Oh, different creepy guy. There it is. That is the prophet of God for the children of God. I know, creepy. I was so confused. What did Grandpa graduate from? Was he in school? I thought school was evil. Why would an adult go to school? Did this mean we were going to get to start going to school too? The uncles played their guitars, and the adults sang through their tears. We've got a lot, we've got a lot, we've got a lot to be thankful for. As we took our seats, I saw that each place had an oversized black and white picture book that read, "Now it can be shown." The front printed with the same photo that was on the easel. The old man with the oily forehead, big white beard, gold chain, deep set eyes, and eerie smile that would haunt my dreams. The ultimate creepy uncle. I'd never known what Grandpa looked like, never even dared to imagine it. Everything about Grandpa was Selah, our word for top secret. Information we guarded with our lives. Stop. Shush. What is your deal? Come here. Come here. He's really upset that the kid has not gone to school, and he thinks that we have forgotten. And he's like trying to remind us. I'd never known what Grandpa looked like, never even dared to imagine it. Everything about Grandpa was Selah, our word for top secret, information we guarded with our lives. Everyone knew the Systemites had been hunting Grandpa since he first started preaching about God. Style, come here. No, come here. Sir. She's fine. She doesn't go to school today. It's summer. I'd never known what Grandpa looked like, never even dared to imagine it. Everything about Grandpa was Selah, our word for top secret, information we guarded with our lives. Everyone knew the Systemites had been hunting Grandpa ever since he started preaching about God, and especially after he started flirty fishing in the 70s, back when Mom was a little girl. Mama Maria and all the other aunties had been sent out to become fishers of men, like the Bible said, luring men and their money to the children of God using sex, the best tool we had to witness for the Lord and show God's love to others. Even though there were several Mo letters that provided precise instructions on how to best be one of God's hookers, we had to stop after an evil German magazine published a picture of him sitting on a bench with 13 scantily clad aunties around him, making them out to be religious prostitutes. It was clear they didn't understand. Then the evil Americans twisted Grandpa's teachings when they reprinted the photo in something called Time magazine. And that's when Grandpa had to start living in hiding, moving all around the world. After that, all pictures of him had been cut out of any family publications. And if they couldn't be cut out, Dad had to draw a big cartoon lion's head over his face. But now we gazed upon a real face. The empty space between the black lines of the comics filled in. Our prophet, in the flesh, a real man. Auntie Dora explained that Grandpa had gone to the heavenly city to be with Jesus. I knew something really big was happening, but I felt like I was missing it. Our prophet was dead. I knew everyone was supposed to feel upset, but I didn't. He impacted all of our lives every single day, but I had never met the guy. I didn't love him. I glanced around, wondering if anyone could hear my blasphemous thoughts. February 18th would no longer be called the fast. With Grandpa's death, the day became the feast, a time to consume God's word and rejoice that we had a new spirit helper in heaven to guide us. I sat there wondering if they'd ever tell us how he died, or if that would remain a secret like so much else. I wondered why all the aunties kept hugging the picture and talking about how beautiful and sexy he was. What was I not seeing? Why was I failing to understand? Everyone around me was crying, thanking Jesus, speaking in tongues, and generally carrying on. Auntie Gentleness on her knees, arms lifted to the sky, tears streaming down her face. Uncle Jebediah, eyes closed, unintelligible sounds coming out of his mouth. Auntie Mary Magdalene on the floor, having apparently fainted. Auntie Temperance and Auntie Lydia gathered around her. Everyone had their parts and their scripts, and they all played them so well. They all really thought Grandpa was in heaven, inside the moon, watching us, judging us on how well we were mourning. It felt like a performance, like when I got picked up late at night to go spend a month at one of the family's video production communes, where we did all kinds of acting, singing, and dancing for the educational videos we watched as part of school and sold on the streets. I would be given a person to pretend to be that day, and we'd dramatize the scene, just the way the director told us to. Once, I had to play the beggar on the streets that Grandpa saw in one of his dreams. I understood that we were all acting in this scene, too. The aunties were supposed to get hysterical. The uncles were supposed to find revelations, and we kids were not supposed to get in the way. I had to play my part, the same way I did when the cameras were rolling. That was the only way to stay out of trouble. So I did what I rarely had the self-control to do. I sat really, really still. My body stayed tucked beneath me as my brain ran its way around thousands of questions. What does this mean? Is the family going to go away? Are we going to have to move to America? Will I get to go to school? What will happen now that our leader is dead? And most importantly, what role will I need to play to survive? This is Uncultured. You can get autographed copies of this in your TikTok shop. I can't pin it anymore because I am partially excommunicated by the cult of TikTok for 90 days. And then in Un-American, which is a new project that I just released, you see the singing and dancing on the streets, and you see the Daniella being little Apocalypse Lindsay Lohan playing the beggar. And that is available as a video book, which is something I invented, which is just me reading a book that is not actually available to you. And you can get that on my TikTok or on my Patreon. Link is in the bio. I also released it chapter by chapter for TikTok subscribers, but TikTok is not very easy to organize. Patreon is. So anyway, now I'm going to close